Some artists are just impossible to pin down. Their refusal to follow any predictable route may often lead them out of the mainstream, but it can still lead them into fascinating directions musically. Tricky is one of those people. He's grown from being a key member of Massive Attack to establishing himself as a solo artist with a massively successful Max & Quay, but has since pursued an intriguing and often frustratingly fleet-footed career, blurring the lines of hip-hop, jazz, rock and reggae with often startling results. He hasn't lived in the UK for 15 years and has always had a difficult relationship with fame. He's also gathered a reputation for being withdrawn, difficult, even paranoid. I found him to be utterly delightful. I met him in Paris, where he now lives, and started off the interview, as I always do, by asking when he was first aware of music as a young child.
Hearing it in the house when I was a kid, Billie Holiday, my grandmother playing it. But I was young, I didn't really obviously know about music. But my first voice I ever heard musically, I think, was Billie Holiday.
Can you remember the tracks?
No. I can remember, I seem to remember that, what's it called? About the hanging, lynching.
Strange Fruit.
Strange Fruit. For some reason, but I don't know if that's me wanting to remember that. But that's the first voice I heard. Yeah, it was Billie Holiday.
Did music always mean a lot to you?
Not until I got into reggae music, dancehall, because it's I started going out to like places when I was 14, and everything, all music was on cassette, and the reggae community was not about buying records, so a cassette could come from Jamaica to Birmingham to Manchester to Bristol to London, and that tape would circulate, and it was sound systems. So then when I was about 14, I started going to sound systems and stuff, and I think that's when music kind of started. Well, it didn't mean a lot to me, but I was living around music then.
So what about the first piece of music you owned? Do you remember buying your first single or buying your first record?
It was, I think it was Too Much Too Young.
Specials?
Yeah.
What was it about the Specials that appealed to you? They had a very strong image and they stood for something. Was that it?
I think it's the first time I could relate. It was like, I could totally understand what they were talking about, it was just normal stuff, like it's street music, so I could totally kind of understand their way of living, because I was living like that, it's like I can imagine going to the same sort of clubs as those guys, and so it's kind of like it was music for council flat kids, I thought, and that's what it felt like. So I think that's why I related to it.
Did you kind of think, I want to be doing that at that point?
Well, it kind of made me feel like I could do it because they were normal guys. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you can love Billie Holiday, but I'm not going to go into a music career because of Billie Holiday, because there's no way I can do that. But with the Specials, they made me feel like, they're guys like me. I can do this.
Tell me more about these compilation tapes. What kind of tracks were getting passed around?
It was sound systems. Like, so you'd have a sound system in Jamaica or London or Birmingham or Bristol, and it was kind of like Jad Tubbies, all these Saxon, all these underground bands, but a cassette would go around. And basically the most popular sound systems were the cassettes what went round. So it was like, and then they would get little tours off of it, but there was no money in it, and you had people like Daddy Rusty and God, I can't remember after names now, but Daddy Rusty, Jad Tubbies, Saxon, and these tapes just used to communicate all through the Jamaican community.
When did you start writing songs? Were you kind of into kind of making your own music or writing lyrics and stuff when you were pretty young?
I used to write words when I was young, but not only like kids would draw, like some kids would draw, I used to write words, I wasn't really a drawer, so I used to write words, but not really. I wasn't like, when I was young, I was just into having fun with my friends. I wasn't really serious about anything, to be honest.
What was the first gig you went to, can you remember?
Public Enemy was, I think it was the Hammersmith. It was with my cousin, Sean, from London, and another friend called Whitley, and that was her first concert.
What was that like?
Oh, it was wicked, because, Public Enemy were like a big influence on me, and then to get them get to see them, you know. And I wasn't really into concerts, you know what I mean? It's like I come from the sound system and then the DJ things. So going to see live bands wasn't really ever my thing. It's still not my thing, to be honest with you. You know, I'd rather go to listen to music in a club than see a live band. So that's the first time I actually made an effort to go and see someone.
What's the big standout track for you? What's the Public Enemy track that really made an impact on you?
What's it called? The first track I heard was, Bring the Noise.
That's a massive tune.
Yeah, it changed the face of music, you know? It changed the face of the all of music. I think Public Enemy are totally underrated, you know what I mean? It's like how some people look at Jimi Hendrix, they should be looking at Public Enemy. You know, I think Public Enemy are more advanced than Jimi Hendrix, to be honest with you. It's new music. Do you know what I mean? So I think they're totally underrated band.
You mentioned DJing. What was the first club gig you DJ'd at or went to?
I went to, what's the first club? It's blues, little blues. We call them blues. It's like illegal parties, Jamaican parties. So it's in a house, but they set up a bar and they cook food. They used to call them shebeens, but then in my day they were called blues. And so there's a bar in a house, and they have a DJ in there with reggae, and you can buy food, you can buy some weed, you can buy drink, and they call it Shebeens Blues, because these were all night things as well. So they never had no license, so they went on all night.
What kind of stuff would they play?
Oh, just all reggae, nothing else but reggae music.
I could ask you, at 17 you spent some time in prison. What was that what happened? What was the first night in prison like? Because that must have been 17's young, man.
Depressing. Really depressing. Like it's boredom is the thing as well. It's boredom because you're locked up 23 hours out of 24, and then you get association every other day. I was in youth custody, and what they do is it's all about the mind, you know what I mean? So you're youth custody, but they take you through the main prison. So you're going through, and you're with it's like, you know, the big boys, you know what I mean? And you're a kid, really, you're 17. So they walk you through that. And it's almost like to mess with your head. You know, like things like ironing your shirts, or you have to roll your collars up on your sleeves. So, because people having razor blades in. So it's all mind games. But it's the thing, what really gets you is the boredom. It's so boring. You know, you're in a cell for 23 hours of the day. It's just very tedious. So it's the time. It's actually the time. It's very boring. And I didn't spend a long time in there. But it's just boring. Really. It's just, and food, but everything is bad. It's designed to be, you know, for when you leave the court and they put you in the van and you're chained to someone else next to you in a little cubicle. There's people you see in there. So you see some people who aren't meant to be there, and it makes you real sad. And some people who've made mistakes, but it's just a mistake, and they're not criminals. You know, they've made one mistake, and it's people like your uncle or your nephew, or, you know, good people. And you've seen they've made one mistake and they're in there. So it's very depressing place, very.
What was your mistake? What were you doing there?
Forgery of the crown. So it wasn't really a mistake. It was, I knew what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? So that wasn't really a mistake. But you know, when you're young, you want, see what, it's like when I lived in my area, I was all right until I ventured out. When I ventured out and I started going to clubs and I ventured out of my area, I became corrupted, because you see people with nice things, you know what I mean? And when you're stuck in your area, you're not aware of it. But when you're old enough to go out, you see people with the best trainers or the best watches or the best da-da-da. And then you start going to clubs and you need money. So, and getting a job sometimes is a hard factor where I come from. So you get corrupted, I suppose, you know? You want the nice clothes, you want to live in the nice area, and so you go out to get money. So we did things to try and get money, you know.
So when did you first start making music for yourself then?
When
what's the first recording?
It's called Nothing's Clear. It was for a compilation album for Sickle Cell, and it was released. It was done by a Bristol guy And that's the first thing I ever, or was it? Yeah, that's the first thing I ever recorded by myself, yeah.
Tell me about what it was like in Bristol at that time, because people obviously talk about the Wild Bunch, and when did you first kind of get associated with, because it seems, for people that were there, it seems like this kind of group of DJs, graffiti artists and rappers, seems like a really creative environment for a few years. Was that what it was like?
I think it's because it's so boring down there that people, you know, you do go into music, you either get a job or you, because it's quite a boring place, do you know what I mean? And if you don't make something happen for yourself, it's going to be boring. So I think in those days, everybody, you know, was DJing, setting up sound systems. It's like, from the sound system, you know, you can really figure out, like, the Wild Bunch is like a sound system, but it was hip-hop. So it's almost like reggae evolving, do you know what I mean? Even though through hip-hop, because when I was younger, I used to go to sound systems of reggae. Then as time went on, I started going to sound systems of hip-hop, and that's when I become a rapper after hearing people like Slick Rick and Rakim. So Wild Bunch was a sound system, and I think it's, you set up your own parties, because it is quite it can be quite a boring place, and it's not a massive place, you know. It's a small city, so everybody knows everybody. So I think there's always a lot of stuff going on music there, because you're forced to make something happen if you live there, because otherwise, you know, you got the kind of discotheques there, which are really not that good, you know, the commercial clubs. So you have to kind of do your own thing, you know. But in Bristol, you could go to a pub, just like a normal pub, and hear the best reggae music you've ever heard, just in a little pub. It's very big Jamaican influence there.
You mentioned Rakim. Was he someone that made a big impact on you?
Oh, well, he changed, like Public Enemy changed the face of hip-hop. Rakim changed the face of rap. You know, rappers were rapping a certain way. It was really, he brought in new school rap. You know, rappers were kind of to the bob, to the da. It's very old school. And then when Rakim came in, he changed that. He brought us into the new century of rap. So he's one of my biggest influences. And, you know, it's like he was recognized as in the New York Times called him the laureate of rap, the King's Poet. You know, and for a rapper to be called that from the New York Times is, you know, he's a poet. He's a poet. His lyrics are just ridiculous, absolutely out of this world, his earlier stuff.
Who was the first person to call you Tricky?
My friend in, actually, I think it was DJ Crust, the drum and bass DJ. Because I was supposed to meet him, and I went off to Manchester, and I come back about 6 weeks later, and he was happened to be where I was meeting him. And I got out of the car, and he called me a Tricky so-and-so. So I think that's where I got it from, I think. But I had it in school, you know.
Tell me about Massive Attack. What was that first record like to record?
It's fun, you know, and it was different because you know, it was a new thing for me. You know, when you're listening to music when you're young, you never think you can do it, you know. You never think, you know, there is a process of getting that. You know, you've got a record. You never think, wow, you could go into a studio, you can record it, they press it. It just seems impossible. You don't seem to know how that, you know. So going in, it was like, it's quite surreal to think, you know, I'm involved in making a record here. So it's quite a surreal experience.
Was it a happy record to make?
Yeah, I don't think happy is the way of explaining it. It's like, I think when you come from the hip-hop world is a competitive world. So I think it's like, say, you want to be the best rapper in England, or you want to be the best rapper in the world. You want to come with the best stuff. So I think it wasn't that happy feeling. It's more like, say, me and 3D, for instance, it's all about competition. So me and him wanted to be the best rappers we could possibly be. So when happy, it was about trying to be the best, because it's like rap was a competitive. So I think it was more like, yeah, we want to be the best, you know.